so far, Deep Sea Diver has been my absolute favorite of all of the stages. And I don't think it would have been my favorite at the very beginning. Like if you brought past Cody and you dropped him into like that weekend, I think he would have had a terrible time. You know, it would have not been a fun experience. It would have been very difficult and kind of painful to move through. But there is something about the whole process leading up to it where each of the stages really got to show up inside of the deep sea diver. And like you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but the way I've been thinking about like what deep sea diver is, it's like there's like when you're in conversation with somebody, most of the time it's like you're like on a boat and you're very surface level and
Mhm.
you're kind of, you're making small talk, like how are things going? And you're very above the surface.
Mhm.
But then every once in a while, and I think like most people have had that experience, like you have that really deep conversation with somebody like on a camp out or like under the stars or something like that. And
Mhm.
then the conversation just kind of drops into something deeper and bigger.
Yeah.
And deep sea divers like how to be once you drop, what do you do? Like what's it look like inside of there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been spooky and it's been fun because like you like okay, so you go and you do sovereign, right? And it's like, okay, how do you sit with yourself and how do you really be with yourself in the right way so you're not getting lost in this other person? It's like I could feel that showing up. I
Mhm.
could feel the explorer showing up, right? Where it's like, okay, we're in new territory together. We're in this ocean that is your mind and your spirit, and we're gonna move around and explore and just see what's down here.
Yeah. And then the explorer, we're like asking clarifying questions, asking deepening questions, reflecting back, paraphrasing to make sure that we're like weaving shared reality, getting on the same page.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next would be warrior.
Mhm.
And so it's like holding that person in the difficult moments, like
Yeah.
maintaining that container,
Yeah.
kind of noticing all their dissonances and the questions that you have coming up and, making things just a little bit uncomfortable.
Well, it's just
And
funny, like the tagline for Warrior is like seeing what hasn't been seen or hasn't been fully seen. So
yeah,
like I know I love that you pointed out the dissonances. Like so Warrior is where you're like the ooh, what's that? Like Warrior is where you would point out like when someone tries to change the subject, when something gets a little tender, or like when they pause or they yawn or they sigh. Like, oh, what was that? Like when you asked about, like you're talking about work and then you ask about a particular colleague or you ask about, a particular boss and they sigh and you're like, oh, what's that?
mhm.
Where in a normal surfacey conversation, you might just let that go,
Yeah. You
because
almost
you're
always would.
exchanging information, but you're not talking about what's happening between us in the moment.
Mm.
And so it's so like the stages all lead into each other. They are, so there's a reason there's an order, even though they kind of are fractal and jump around. And so you're
Yeah.
spot on of like, and deep sea divers like the continuation of that.
Mm.
And if warrior is seeing what hasn't been seen or hasn't been fully seen, because sometimes like you see it but not fully, then deep sea diver is feeling what
Mm.
hasn't been felt or fully felt. So like now you're seeing it, and then you let yourself experience it, really, like you said, sink into it. Now we're not just going like breadth and,
Mm.
width. Now this is where we start doing the depth.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great frame for it. I
Yeah.
won't
And I
tell the other stages that it's your favorite. I have the same hard, difficult thing. It's like Sovereign and Deep Sea Diver of the seven stages
Mm.
are my two favorites. Yeah.
yeah. And like what I've been really appreciating about Deep Sea Diver is like how like every other stage you go through is really like a building up for the capacity to be in Deep Sea Diver. And once that clicked in the session, I was like my brain kind of exploded in a really positive way. Um and it's like, oh, I've been training all of these different capacities for like the past, half of a year, whatever it's been. And I can see really right now how each of those different like things I've been training are showing up fully in this experience. And like there is like a weird level of self-trust I had in those experiences and in those moments. And
Mhm.
like I know you and I have talked a whole bunch in these recordings about how like I'm not very good about like dropping in and feeling my feelings.
Mhm.
And this weekend, this past weekend that we did, I think I'm having to readjust that script for myself because it's like, wait, hold on. Actually, I was able to do that.
Mhm.
Like both circling other people and then being circled myself.
Mhm.
Like
Ooh,
having that trust with all of everybody in my cohort,
yeah.
It's like, okay, I trust all of these people. So if I'm opening up and I'm talking to these guys, I'm going to trust that they're going to take me to where I need to go. And if I'm experiencing something really difficult, like they're going to be with that with me.
Mhm.
And so I can really drop deeper in
Yeah.
and get to these deeper levels by myself.
You
Or not
didn't
by myself,
you
but
didn't really say this exactly, so let me check if I'm hallucinating or if I'm like listening between the lines of like it sounds like what you're saying is as you are having these experiences with your cohort that is fostering greater trust in and with them, it's
Mhm.
allowing you to trust yourself more.
Mhm.
And then so you're like, yeah, I can go there and I'm not going to fall apart. And even if I do fall apart, I trust these people to hold the pieces together. And so, like, it's almost like this reciprocal, like, opening and deepening of like the more you trust them, the more they show up for you. And the more they show up for you, the more you trust them. And then that allows you to trust more of yourself and reveal more of yourself and to try on things that you didn't think you could do or you
Yeah,
didn't think were for you or you didn't think you were good at. Is that
exactly. Yeah.